happens when an ordinary person, maybe somebody like you, just wakes up one day and quietly wonders, is alcohol still serving me? No rock bottom, no dramatic story, just a feeling that something's off. That's where today's conversation begins. Our guest today is someone who's building a new way of life around that quiet moment of questioning. And if you've ever had that whisper of curiosity, you won't want to miss this one.
Welcome to the Sober Life Rocks podcast. You may have made the decision not to drink alcohol, or at the very least, not at work-related events. Whether you've never been a drinker, are in recovery, or made a health-related decision, we see you, and you are not alone. In today's world, networking, socializing, and celebrations often happen over drinks, and the struggle can be real. Through this podcast, we're changing that narrative. We're here to create a community where individuals like you, who choose not to drink or drink less, can find camaraderie, support, and practical advice.
Before we get started, Sober Life Rocks is hosting our conference, Amplify Sober Voices, on January 15th, 2026, where we're bringing together influencers and speakers and writers and podcasters to reimagine what a truly inclusive, alcohol-optional world looks like. And if you're interested in being part of the growing movement we're seeing, we would love to have you join us. Learn more at amplifysobervoices.com. So welcome back. Today, I'm joined by the incredible Lauren Welch, founder of the Sober Curious Society, a transformative digital course and platform designed to help women reassess their relationship with alcohol and step into the most empowered version of themselves. Lauren's work is rooted in ditching shame, cultivating self-trust, and building a life that feels so good you no longer need to numb it. She's a mentor, course creator, and trailblazer, helping women find clarity and alignment in their sober journeys. And her approach is both deeply personal and refreshingly practical. So, Lauren, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I just want to start out with getting to know you and your story and your journey and how you came to become curious about your alcohol.
So I kind of had my little journey start in the beginning of 2023. I probably, like a lot of other people during the pandemic, leaned into alcohol more than normal. And it was just kind of a slow progression where I was starting to use it more for coping and stress relief. And I had my brother-in-law pass away very suddenly and was using wine to kind of deal with his passing. And yeah, I just wasn't loving my relationship and behavior with it and decided to take a week off. And it's now turned into almost 800 days.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah, thanks. And I started posting about it on social media after a month of not drinking. And the response—
Wow, that's brave.
I kind of went back and forth with it. I was very intimidated by it, but I also work as a hairstylist and a salon owner. And I kind of started to talk to clients and close friends about it. And that's when I realized a lot of other women, especially, were dealing with the same things that I were, as far as like not loving their relationship. And after I posted about not drinking for 30 days, I just got hundreds of messages on my Instagram. And that's when my wheels really kind of started turning, that this was something bigger. And I just wanted to continue the journey. And it led into starting a course in a community that I'm about to launch.
That's so cool. And I would definitely want to dive into that. But tell me what some of the responses were, because I didn't get, so public about my sobriety until I was 18 and a half years sober. So I'd love to know, what were some of the responses you were getting?
So it was mainly women that were messaging me. Some I knew, some I didn't. And the main question everyone was asking is, what are you doing? And at that point, I really didn't have a plan or a system or anything that I was following. I was just finding sober and sober curious accounts on Instagram, actually, and trying to just learn about alcohol and other people who are navigating the same thing that I was. And I just really tried to be transparent with everybody, because I think if you're newly sober curious or newly starting a sober journey, you feel very isolated and that you can maybe be the only person going through it. So I really just tried to answer as open and honestly as I could and just let others know that they had support.
That's beautiful. Because I
Thank
think,
you.
one of the whole things about alcohol is it's so weird that like you're accepted if you drink and you're even cheered on with like the party scene.
Mhm.
And yet there's this shame around choosing not to drink.
Yeah, I totally agree too. And I think especially with like my age group, I have little kids and the whole like mommy wine culture has gotten completely just like, I don't know, distorted and turned into something that is not a healthy relationship in my opinion a lot of the time. And it was odd because it was almost half and half with my friend group. Half understood it and were supportive. And then the other half, I think, didn't really want to talk to me about it. And it could have been, because they had their own issues, which I never judge people or tell them what to do. But it was definitely like a little bit of like, getting my footing with how I talk to people about it.
Yeah. So I love the idea that this is you're in real time kind of working through these shame sort of messages that we might get. So tell me a little bit more about that and what you now have come to realize for yourself and that you're beginning to share with others.
So I think initially you do just have a lot of like shame and guilt. And I didn't wake up one day and just decide to take a break. It was definitely like a slow burn towards it. And even if I think back to, I grew up in a very small town and that's what we did as teenagers. Like you went to a field and had parties. And I kind of even knew back then that the way that I drank didn't seem exactly how my friends did sometimes. But it was where I was definitely like, I was a cheerleader. I got good grades. I wasn't a
Mhm.
kid who got into major trouble. I still was a very good student and graduated and everything. But I think always in the back of my mind, I just didn't love what it did to me. And it wasn't until after I actually had my first baby when I just turned 30. I wasn't going out, obviously, as much anymore because you're at home being a mom. But it just kind of snuck up on me where I would be drinking more nights out of the week than not. But I would justify it in my head. I'm like, well, I'm still waking up at 6 in the morning. I'm still taking care of my baby. I'm still doing XYZ, but I'm also drinking 3 to 4 glasses of wine almost every night. And I think I subconsciously knew for a really long time, but I was just never ready to like address it. And then after my epic meltdown at a family wedding, it was a black tie wedding. And I got into an altercation on the dance floor with a guest that I was not excited to see. I just lost my temper and it was a lot of like pent up things that I'd wanted to say. And I had too much liquid courage. And after that, I was just like, oh my God, like this is like bad. I was mortified, felt shame, embarrassment, anything you could think of. So the next morning when I woke up, that's when I was like, okay, I'm not going to drink for a week. And then like after a week, I'm like, wow, I'm sleeping better. I feel better. I don't feel fuzzy in the morning. And it honestly just like progressed from there. And then once I decided to start talking about it, I just kind of built more confidence around it. And I was like, this isn't a shameful thing. And I learned the science of what alcohol actually does, which was super interesting. And I'm like, it's not just me. This scientifically changes our brain, our thought process. So yeah, that's kind of how I have been navigating it.
That's awesome. And I love that you woke up one day and said, I'm going to take off a week. For somebody like me, I made those promises all the time and I couldn't stick with them. By 4 o'clock
Mhm.
the next day, the decision that I had made no longer seemed quite so pressing. Um,
Right.
what would you say to other people who want to follow that path, but that moment comes and how did you deal with that moment?
The moment I talked to my husband about it, I did have a support person who he was obviously very supportive. And I actually have a friend who has been in AA for several years. So she was one of the first ones that I actually reached out to the morning after the wedding. And it was good to have a support person or people. And if I did feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out, I just want to have a drink, I don't think I can go one more night, I would text or call them or talk to them. And having that person just to be like, hey, you're okay. You don't need to do this. You don't want to do it. And then within like 20 minutes, it would kind of go away and I'd be on to the next thing. But I think just finding like a support person or someone that you can reach out to is number one for sure.
1000% agree. So that kind of brings us to then your community that you're starting to build. So tell me about that.
Okay, I am so excited. I've been working on it for such a long time. So it's called the Sober Curious Society, and it is a digital course, and it's a 30-day self-guided course for women who want to take a break from alcohol. And once you join our community, you're entered into a private community as well. So it would be filled with women who are currently in the course or have been in it previously, and we'll have weekly calls with different topics to go over. So even if you're virtual, you have the support. And the course is broken down into 5 different modules, and it basically has a lot of like self-reflecting and journaling that goes along with what brought you to this point, what is making you sober curious, and basically just deep diving into like what's the science behind it? How do we navigate social events? What have we taken away from this? How has my sleep gotten better? My gut health, my mental health? And you're basically just going through any and everything of how alcohol would affect you from the inside out. And then by the end of the 30 days, recapping and seeing what you want to do moving forward with it. And there's no shame, there's no guilt. It's not saying I never have to drink again. It's what have I learned in this 30 days and how do I want to move forward, which is cool.
I love that so much. I mean, I think as adults, we don't want to be told what we can do and what we can't do. And
Mm-hmm.
so, man, I remember I used to get my parents, bless their hearts, they were so worried about me. And so they would say, you should,
Right. Yeah.
right? You
Right.
should stop drinking, or you should go to AA, or you should do this and that, the other thing. And the more that they said that, of course, the more I resisted.
100%. Same. It's
And
true.
and so I love the idea of this just being an exploration.
That's the best way to put it. And I think too, it's just it's not a one size fits all for every single person. And I've talked to so many people who have been sober for like 20 years, 5 years, 10 years. Everybody has a different route. And I just think it's finding what works best for you. And we're not all the same. You know what I mean? So if you can take different bits and pieces from different people or experiences and just live, the best that you can and be healthy is the main thing. That's the goal at the end of the day.
And the other thing I think about is today we call it alcohol use disorder
Right.
because it is a whole spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And the notion of alcohol bad, it's very outdated.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, after I'd gotten sober, talking to my kids about it and saying, look, it's not the alcohol that's bad. It's the how are you using it that can get you into trouble.
Totally.
And the
Yeah.
idea of if you are drinking because you've had such a crappy day and this is how you're going to get through it, or if the only way you know how to celebrate a good moment is by drinking,
Right.
that's something you might want to look at.
That's like such a good way to put it also. And I feel like I say this all the time. I feel like I got duped like growing up because we're programmed. You know what I mean? Like I loved all the Disney princesses with the drinks and the balls and all that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting when you do remove it. And especially if you are using it either to excess or to cope with certain things. But I was really angry actually, like when I thought about it, because times that I wouldn't plan to like over drink and it would just happen. I'm like, man, like alcohol literally stole this really special like event or memory from me, even though I chose to drink it. But it really just put a lot into perspective where it makes you forget your memories when they're ones that you really want to make. So it's just
Mhm.
really nice being present, like in all the moments and really enjoying it a lot more, in my opinion.
So, because you're younger, I would just love to know, like, when you go into social situations, and so I'm thinking now about the people that, we talk to who they're maybe going to a happy hour with their colleagues, or maybe they're at, a conference and going to a networking event. Like, first of all, how was it for you showing up at those things as somebody who they knew as a drinker and now suddenly you choose not to? So, first, how did you deal with that?
So 2 weeks after the wedding, when I decided to take a break, was actually my birthday, and I had planned a party for everybody to go to. And at that point, only my family knew that I wasn't drinking. And I really just didn't honestly want to make other people feel uncomfortable about it or get a lot of questions. So I brought like one of those big Stanley cups with me and pretended like there was alcohol in it when there wasn't. But then
Okay.
after I had finally, it was probably about like a month after when I started talking about it, I would just go and I love Diet Coke. It's not the best for you, but I would order like a Diet Coke in a rocks glass or do like a ginger ale with a slice of lime. And I
Hmm.
almost felt like I was just used to holding something as a habit while I'm talking and socializing. And nobody really cares what's in your glass is like the other thing too. If you're out at a bar, especially, and I go up and order something, nobody knows really what I'm ordering except for me. And I felt like at first I thought everybody would be like hyper focused on what I was doing. They're busy doing whatever they're doing. So I feel like if I didn't really think about it or make it a thing, it just got much easier as time went on. And I actually had so much more fun too, which I didn't think would be the thing, but way more fun.
Tell me about that.
I'm social. I like to talk and socialize with people. So I just felt more present and I was more confident going into conversations. And I like genuinely was excited, like conversing with people where I feel like sometimes if I would go out and you'd have just like too much to drink, I would be like, oh, I felt like that would have been like a really good person or friend to meet, but you wouldn't, I don't know, have as like sharp of a memory of it. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Now, the tricky one, because we all encountered this, if you aren't drinking and the night is moving on and people have been drinking more,
Mhm.
how are you navigating those situations today?
Oh, so that is definitely a good question. It's a little annoying sometimes, which I was like, oh my God,
Hmm.
that was me for so many years. So I was a little mortified. But if we go out and say we're at like a happy hour and it's to the point where everyone's going to like the next bar or location or whatever, if I'm alone, I'll just kind of like bow out, or my husband and I will leave at the same time. But yeah, I don't feel like people, again, depending on what type of an event you're at, they might realize that you sneak out or not, but I'm not as fond of like the after party type places anymore. And I just like to, go home and do my skincare routine and get in bed and, not feel like crap the next day too. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, yeah, that part was a little tricky at first, for sure.
That's awesome. So, one of the other things I wanted to ask you is this. We hear these terms now, they've almost become ubiquitous, the dry January or sober curious or sober-ish. Like, what do you think the biggest misconception is about like sober curious or sober-ish? Like,
So from what I've understood from it, so I think like sober-ish, maybe they use like marijuana or like different types of substances is what I've kind
mhm.
of gathered from it, which again, I don't.
California sober, they call it too. Yeah.
Exactly. California sober. Yeah. Which like again, whatever floats your boat. Like I don't, that's not for me. But I think maybe people trying to put like a label on it to try to like identify like your comfort level with things or what you're actually doing to maybe, I don't
Mhm.
know, try to figure out, just your viewpoint on it. Sober curious, I think, is definitely like a really big buzzword right now, which I think is a really great one. And what I've kind of told people if they've asked me, I'm like, if you're questioning your relationship with alcohol, you should explore it. And if you're curious about it, it could be for a good reason. And it doesn't hurt to like look further into it and try to figure out why you're using alcohol or why you're to that point.
Mhm. Do you feel like it's okay for people to continue to drink while they're exploring this?
Um, Again, that's like so personal. I do have some friends who, and clients, I should say too, because, we hear everything as the hairstylist. I think it's very scary for people to fully dive into it because it's almost admitting that you have a quote unquote problem with it. And it kind of goes back to like the labels of like alcoholic and like, what does that mean? And if I do say I have a problem, what if I drink again? And it's like the mental gymnastics that you do with it.
Mhm.
And it's really hard because I have friends who were sober for 7, 8 years and then they would relapse and drink again. So it's such a personal thing. For me, I never put like a time cap on it. Like I still say if someone asks me, like, I haven't drank in almost 800 days. I don't know if I will tomorrow, but if you ask me today, I haven't wanted to. So yeah, that's tough. But I think if you're definitely thinking about it, then try to do what's best for you. But if it's in the back of your mind, then maybe try to take a break and see how you feel.
Yeah. I know I have a good friend who said from here forward, like drinking has not been a problem in his life,
Mhm.
but he said from here forward, having, heard of Sober Life Rocks and the things that we're doing, he's just not going to drink at any professional events anymore
That's great.
because it feels to him like being more present is what he wants to do anyhow. Making those more genuine connections is what he wants to do anyhow. And so I feel like that whole sober curious thing can extend even to that, to look at like, when are we drinking or how are we drinking or why are we drinking can mean a partial decision.
Exactly. Yeah. And how awesome that that was an influence on one of your friends too. That's huge to come to that realization for him.
Yeah. I have another friend who she's a member of our community who she is a professional speaker.
Hmm.
And she's a drinker, but for years she is just the night before she speaks and the whole the whole trip she doesn't drink because she wants to show up as her best. But if
Yeah.
she's at home with her family and they feel like having a glass of wine, like that's fine. So I don't think that sober curious always has to end in not drinking.
Same. Yeah. And I agree too. And I think it takes the pressure off of the person who wants to explore the sober curiosity as well.
Mhm.
And again, like it might be like the speaker where, if you do want to have a glass of wine in your home and you feel comfortable. And I do think it's interesting that more people are realizing their performance level and that they're choosing to remove it for those reasons. And you really do show up as your best, like most authentic self. And it's definitely a
Absolutely.
proven thing for sure.
Okay, I want to ask, have you explored any fun, like non-alcoholic drinks or mocktails?
Oh my gosh. Yes, a lot of them.
Okay.
So, I live in Tampa, Florida, and right when I decided to take a break on Instagram, I found a non-alcoholic bottle shop. They're called Urban Flow. And I went in, my husband and I, like after a month, and it is so cool how many options there are now. I was a big wine drinker. That was my drink of choice. And I actually did like the taste of wine. So it was really challenging finding NA wines that didn't taste like juice, that actually
Mhm.
tasted like wine. So I found de-alcoholized wine where they remove all the alcohol and it doesn't taste like juice. It actually tasted very good. And I found, what's the name of it? It's called Crybaby and it actually has CBD in it that helps like
Mhm.
relax you a little bit. So that's probably been my favorite. Yeah. It's been so fun though. There's so many.
It is. And do you have any go-to like mocktail drinks that you love?
Yeah. I think Ritual is the brand of the NA liquors and
Mhm.
those are so good. And actually a lot of bars carry them now, which is very cool, and restaurants. So if you go out, the mocktail menus have gotten much larger, which is super fun. So I love all of the Ritual brands, or if I would have done like a vodka tonic, I'll do like the Ritual instead.
Mhm.
Yeah, so those have been really good. I'm trying to think what else. I think I did like an NA Moscow Mule that was really good. So all
Yeah,
that
with
kind of stuff.
ginger beer, it's delicious.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's come a long way.
Cool. So if anybody wants to learn about you and your community, tell everybody where they can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram. My page is the Sober Curious Society, and we have a link right in our bio that will take you to our community page, and you can sign up for our email list and get all of our updates. And the course should be launching hopefully in the next month or so.
And where can they find you and all of your stories on? Is it same link on Instagram?
Yep, same one. Yep. So I have a lot of
Okay.
my personal stuff on there too. Yeah, which is fun.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Lauren, thank you so much for just sharing what it's like to be younger and to have this moment and embrace it
Thank
and
you.
and just prove that, when we get curious, when we become honest with ourselves, we can let go of that shame and then have this life like just open with more clarity, more joy, more connection.
Absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I've told every person, like, I've never woken up a day and regretted not drinking. It's hands down the best choice I've ever made my whole life. And if one person wants to explore it because of me talking about it, then it was all for something for sure.
Oh, I love that. Now, last thing, I opened the show talking about our conference Amplify, and I know that you're coming. Tell me why you're so excited to be coming.
I am so excited. So I cannot wait to connect with people and just meet people who are on the same path that I'm on and have all of these really amazing careers and stories and life experience. and just the energy of getting to like be in the same room with everyone. And it's just so motivating and inspiring. And I'm just pumped. I can't wait. I think it's going to be so much fun.
Fantastic. Well, we can't wait to see you either. So thank you all for listening and joining us in this awesome podcast with Lauren Welch. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind to yourself, and keep rocking your sober life.
Thank you.